So what happens when people unite? They become a direct threat to the established system of power. This is not just a philosophical idea. History shows us time and time again that when marginalized communities come together across the lines of race, class, and ideology, they challenge the very foundation of the status quo. And this threat is so potent, so powerful, that the wealthy elite have constantly worked to stop it, often using every tool at their disposal to keep us divided. But let's look at the numbers, the hard, undeniable statistics that reveal just how dangerous unity is to those in power. Income inequality. In the United States, the gap between the wealth and the rest of the population has reached historically staggering levels. The top 1% of Americans now own over 40% of the nation's wealth, while the bottom 90% only own less than 25%. This imbalance is not natural. It is a direct result of the policies designed to keep the masses divided and weakened, unable to challenge the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few. 2. The power of collective action. History has shown that when communities organize collectively, they can reshape the political landscape. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were passed only after decades of cross-racial organizing. It wasn't just Black Americans fighting for their rights. It was white allies, Latino communities, and Jewish Americans who stood alongside Black leaders, knowing that the fight for justice was not just about race. It was about human rights. The elite feared this unity because it challenged the racial, economic, and political systems that have served them for generations. 3. Modern movements. More recently, movements like Black Lives Matter have demonstrated the incredible power of unity. These movements have been effective not only because they bring attention to the systemic injustice, but because they show how diverse groups, Black, white, Latino, Asian, and Indigenous, can come together to challenge the status quo. In 2020, protests in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder were the largest protests in U.S. history, with millions of people across the country joining in. White Americans, many of whom had never before participated in racial justice protests, were marching alongside people of color in record numbers. This interracial solidarity shifted public opinion and put significant pressure on the institutions of power, even leading to local and state-level policy changes. Though much work remains, the elite saw this as a grave threat to their power. When diverse groups unite like this, they don't just make noise, they make change. Political shifts and electoral impact. When marginalized groups unite, they not only bring attention to the social injustices, they bring the political muscle necessary to change the political landscape. Studies have shown that the electoral outcome of presidential elections and local political races can be significantly influenced by the solidarity between racial and economic groups. When these groups mobilize and turn out in high numbers, they become a force that politicians and policymakers can no longer ignore. This is why the elite invest heavily in dividing us. Separating the working class from one another keeps them in power and prevents collective action from shifting the political balance. The truth is simple. Unity is the enemy of the elite. When the communities that have historically been at odds come together to fight for their shared interest, they threaten the systems of power that benefit only the few. This fear is so deeply embedded in the fabric of American society that it manifests in every political, social, and economic decision. The elite work tirelessly to create and maintain the divisions that weaken our collective ability to fight back. But what would happen if we recognized the power of unity? What if we understood that our struggles are interconnected and that when we unite, we can dismantle the systems of oppression that have been designed to keep us weak? The answer is clear. The system would collapse. Solidarity isn't just a good feeling idea. It is the most powerful tool we have, and that is why the most feared by those in power, the elite, do everything in their power to keep us from seeing it and keep us fighting against each other. But as history has shown time and time again, when we unite, we can create real change, and that is the real threat. The question is, what are you going to do with this power? The fight for justice and equality is not only about breaking the chains of the oppressed, it is also about creating a world where unity and solidarity are not just ideals, but the foundation of our collective strength. And when we realize that, the true power shifts in our hands.